Gregory Salvatore, one of the founding members of the YouTube pack, made a similar video to this that I found very interesting, and decided I would make one of my own. When I couldn't film outside, and it's been raining all weekend, so I figured I'd put this together for you guys. I hope you all enjoy it. If any of you live in the Harrisburg, Pennsylvania area, or any of you planning on going to Motorama, that's, I believe, February the 17th and 18th, if I'm not mistaken. And I know Gregory Salvatore, Josh of the 570 Experience, and several other of the YouTube pack are going to be there. And so if you guys have a chance, go by, check it out, and say hi to the rest of the pack for me. So without further ado, let's cue the intro and get on with this video. So this is identical to the first street legal bike I ever had. I had plenty of dirt bikes before, and so I knew how to ride. As soon as I turned 14 here in Alabama, you can get your motorcycle license, and I went and did that. And this was my way of getting around until I turned 16. Me and my buddies used to both jump on there. We'd just go ride. You could ride trails, you could ride street. Didn't really matter. Had a lot of fun on it, and anyways, kept it for quite a while until right before I got my first car, I guess. A lot of these pictures will be very close representations of the cars I had, because back in the day, you didn't have a cell phone, and so you didn't have so much access to a camera. You needed one with film, and film was expensive, and so anyway, there wasn't a whole lot of pictures, and if there are any that exist, I don't know where they're at. So anyways, my first car here, my dad helped me get it. Actually, he was going to pay for it, and I was going to pay the insurance, and it was 89 Camaro Rally Sport. Mine had T-tops. It was automatic, 305, of course, and had the gray interior. So anyway, that was my first car. I didn't have it very long. It was a good car. Nothing was wrong with it, but there was just some things that went on. My parents had divorced and stuff, and anyway, some things had went on that prevented me from being able to keep the car, one of which was holding up my end of the deal, paying the insurance, because I had a hard time keeping a job. I found out really quick at a young age that fast food was not for me. But anyway, so there's the first car. So then my grandparents found a car that looked just like this one here, and you can imagine going from a Camaro to I believe it was an 89 Buick Regal granny car. I was not too happy. I really did appreciate that they wanted to help me get a car, but I basically had to let everybody know that I will not be driving that car. If you want to buy it, fine, but I won't drive it. I'll walk first. And so what ended up happening is my mom, bless her heart, she took this car, and she at the time was driving. It was either a 91 or 92 Mazda Protege, and so anyway, then the Protege became my car. So here's a picture of my Protege was this color, but mine had different wheels. I believe it was a Protege DX, little double overhead cam, 4-cylinder, 5-speed. Pretty quick little car for the time. And actually, until I bought the Shelby, that's the car that I went the fastest in. Remember one time I was on the interstate I-59 just outside of Birmingham, really late at night, being a stupid, teenager, and I believe the car registered 140, and then it pegged out, and I had it pegged out at 140, and the tack was still climbing, so 145-ish or something like that. Pretty stupid, but anyway, I did it. But I liked that little car pretty good. It was a great little car, and actually my friend ended up buying it after it was mine. And one more thing I remember about the car, being a teenager, had a lot of friends riding with me and stuff like that. If you look on the dash right here, that was the four-way flasher hazard light button. But everybody that got in the car for the first time wanted to know, what does that button do? And so it had this little triangle with looked like an arrow pointed up. It's this big fat red button. I told everybody it was the passenger ejection seat. And of course, everybody had to press it then, to find out. But so anyway, that's just a funny little memory. But so anyway, then moving on, I turned 18. This was 1998, late 1998, And so I was 18, out of high school, and I got a job with a big construction company. And at the time, I was making what I considered to be great money. You know, I'm 18 years old, still living at home, and the only thing, well, at the time, even then, I didn't have a payment. You know, my car was paid for, so I got my dad to co-sign with me, and I got this 1994 Ford Ranger. Again, this is not a picture of mine, but mine was this color. About the only difference was mine was an XLT, so it had chrome bumpers and chrome grille, whereas this one doesn't, and it had a blue stripe down the side. Most people thought it was a splash, but it was not a splash. It had like the stripe that kind of made it look like a splash, and it was really it only had 40,000 miles on it when I got it, and it was a really nice truck for an 18-year-old to have. And so anyway, we kept that. I got married, and we had that truck, and then we had a baby, and so all of a sudden that truck didn't make sense anymore because it was a 5-speed, and you couldn't hardly shift the gears with the car seat in the middle, so it had to go pretty quickly. So for a very short while, we had two cars, and it was one identical to this one. The wheels, I think, were different, but other than that, it was a Pontiac Grand Prix GT 1999 model. That was basically my wife's first car. I think we paid for that car. I can't remember for sure, but I think we paid cash for it, or if not, we just had a short loan. And so anyway, that was her first car. It had leather and sunroof and all that kind of stuff and all these little bells and whistles. And she won't have a car without all those bells and whistles to this day. So I kind of ruined her when we bought that car. But anyways, it was a good car, V6. At the time, my mother had a 99 Grand Prix GTP, the supercharged version, and I wished ours was, but it wasn't. And at the time, I had started driving a truck over the road, so it was basically her car, and I rarely ever drove it. Then we move on to the good stuff. This is the only known picture of my 1998 Mustang GT. Bought it in 2003. I'd been driving a truck for a little while, had myself established, and was making pretty decent money. And so anyway, I got to looking for a 98 Mustang GT. I had 3 buddies in high school that got brand new 98 Mustang GTs, and I had a Ford Ranger, and I'd always wanted a 98 Mustang GT, so I went and bought one. So I started my search, and I wanted a really nice, clean, well cared for car, and found this one. It was in Orlando, Florida. I think I paid $9,000 for it with just over 40,000 miles. It was a one-owner car, bone stock, female owned and driven before I bought it, Florida car, and it was just in excellent shape. So I bought it, and we flew to Orlando and drove it back. Now, this is the only car I ever had that I did any kind of modifications to, and most everything I did to it, I regretted. Not because I wished I hadn't modified it, I wished I had gone further. The one thing I didn't regret was I put a Hurst shifter in it. The other things I did to it, 373 gears, wish I'd went with 410s. I did the Eibach Pro Kit springs. I wished I'd gone with the sport lines because it wasn't quite as low as I wanted it. But I was scared to go any lower because I didn't want it riding like a horse and buggy. But when I got finished with it, it rode just as good as stock and looked a heck of a lot better. But I put the Takiko premium shocks and struts, Maximum Motorsports caster camber plates, Maximum Motorsports polyurethane spring isolator bushings. It needed a clutch at one point, and I put a King Cobra clutch in it, which I was fine with that. I did a BBK cold air intake, had Flowmaster exhaust and an X-pipe, tinted the windows, and it seems like there was something else, but that's all I can remember right now, and that may have been all of it. So then in 05, we bought the house that we currently live in, and at the same time, we became truly a two-car family for the first time. We bought a 99 Ford Explorer, the Eddie Bauer. Really liked that car. It was 5-liter all-wheel drive. Didn't get great gas mileage, of course, but you know it was really nice. And we had that one for probably 3 years. We ended up paying it off, and we kept it just a little while after we paid it off. And then, you know, she got to wanting something else. She didn't really want an SUV, and you know, gas mileage and all that, and the transmission had started to slip just a little bit. So that's when we went and bought her I think it was an '02 Volkswagen Jetta, little turbo, and we didn't keep that car for long at all. We had it for right about a year, and we got rid of that thing because it just had issue after issue. Just every time you turned around and there was not a Volkswagen dealer around, hard to find parts, hard to find people to work on it. So we got rid of that one. And then I really got to wanting a Lincoln Navigator. And so we found an '03 Lincoln Navigator. Had most of the options. It didn't have a sunroof and it didn't have navigation, but it had pretty much everything else, the backseat entertainment and all that good stuff. And so we ended up buying that '03 Navigator. And it turned out to be a really good vehicle. Didn't give us a whole lot of trouble. Later on, it started to give some trouble with the suspension. It has air ride, and so we ended up replacing that with springs. It had Michelin tires on it when we bought it, and about a year before we got rid of it, we put a set of Firestones on it. But it was really pretty cost-effective vehicle. We paid $14,750 for it, and we ended up keeping it for 7 years. And then in 2010, I got to wanting a four-wheel drive pickup, and the Mustang had long since been paid for, and I was getting a little bit bored with it. And so anyways, I sold the Mustang and then used a company truck for a little while until I found the truck that I wanted. And so that was an '03 Ram. I believe it was a Sport, had the 4.7 liter, and this is actual pictures of it. And so anyway, I kept that truck for 4 years, and then during the time I had that, we ended up trading the Navigator in on my wife's 2014 Chevy Cruze. But before we get into the Cruze, in the meantime, while I had the truck and we still had the Navigator, I kind of got to wanting a bike. A lot of the people I work with ride. My dad rides, and so I ended up with this Suzuki Volusia. Suzuki Intruder Volusia, I believe it was, and I had it for about a year, and I really couldn't do anything with it to make it what I wanted. So I sold it and then used some of the money for it and put some more money with it, and I bought an '04 Harley Super Glide. Like you see here, it already had all the mods done to it. I didn't do anything to it. It was lowered and had Vance and Hines short shots, and it had some funky ape hangers. I always meant to just change it over to some regular mini apes to get rid of those weird looking handlebars, but I never did. Actually, the whole time I owned the Harley, I think I put like 500 miles on it, and I owned it for 2 years, 2.5 years, something like that. So then after the Navigator, as I mentioned, we got my wife a 2014 Chevy Cruze. We bought it in January of 2015. And it's a 14 model, and it had 8,000 miles or slightly under 8,000 miles. So it's the newest, at the time we bought it, newest and lowest mileage car we've ever purchased. We've never purchased a brand new car and probably won't ever. And so anyways, she really liked this car. I was kind of pushing for a Nissan Maxima, but she really wanted a Cruze, and so that's what we got. This is the LTZ RS, which RS means nothing. It's the exact same thing as an LTZ, except it has the RS badges. That's the only thing it is. So, and my intention was to keep my truck for quite a while longer. It was paid for and been paid for and all that, but we got that Chevy Cruze that was more modern and had the touch screen and all that good stuff. And so I kind of got the itch, the new car fever. And so wasn't long then I decided I wanted a Jeep and started searching. And I found this one, 2011 Rubicon. And when I bought it, it looked like this. And then so I didn't trade my pickup. They didn't want to give me near enough money for it, so I didn't trade it. I kept it, and I sold it for $5,500. Cash, and then I took that $5,500 and I put it into my Jeep. I put a winch on it. I put 35-inch BF Goodrich tires and a Rusty's off-road, I believe it was 3.25-inch advanced lift kit. And then there pretty much went my $5,500. But we had fun with the Jeep, but it was not that fun to daily drive, being such a short wheelbase, being lifted. I mean, everything was done right, but it didn't drive that great, and it really lacked power. So if you're looking for a Jeep, you're going to want to buy a 2012 or newer, because they have like 100 more horsepower and get better gas mileage. And so I bought that in March 2015 and had my fun with it. Blew a bunch of money on it that I really probably shouldn't have, but hindsight's always 20/20. And then I realized I'm a Mustang guy. I want another Mustang. If I'm going to buy a Mustang, which one would it be? So for about 2 months, I did research. I had been wanting a car like this for quite a while. I was kind of between either an S550 GT, a Challenger Scat Pack. Either one of those I would have bought brand new. But instead, I chose to go with the GT500. I looked at a 12 model GT500 that I almost bought, but instead they didn't really want to work with the price, and I didn't want to give what they wanted, and so I ended up finding my 14 Shelby. Bought it on January the 28th, 2017, so 1 year anniversary is right around the corner. So when I had the Jeep, so that I could haul stuff, I bought a little 5x10 trailer to pull behind it, and I could use it, and I didn't need a pickup. So when I bought the Shelby then, and traded in the Jeep, all of a sudden I needed a way to haul stuff. And so I wasn't riding my Harley, so I put it on Craigslist. And then back this past June of 2017, I traded even my Harley for this '07 Dodge Ram. And so then that allowed me to haul stuff again, and it also allowed me to not daily drive the Shelby and keep miles off of it. And so this is just basically my work truck and my daily transportation that I don't have to really worry about all that much. Nothing special about it. It's a two-wheel drive, 4-door. It does have a Hemi, so it gets up and goes pretty good. I believe it's 375 horsepower. And that brings us to our most recent purchase, 2015 Ford Edge Sport. 315 horsepower, 350 foot-pounds of torque. It's a pretty fun little car. It looks good. She likes it. It's got all the little gadgets that she likes and the panoramic sunroof and all the modern stuff that you kind of come to expect, that like that Lincoln Navigator had heated and cooled seats back in 03. But nowadays, you get it in a Ford, so that's kind of neat. Now, as I said earlier, I got the idea for this video from Gregory Salvatore. So what I'd like to do now is propose a challenge to the rest of the YouTube pack to make similar videos about all the cars they have owned. So I look forward to that. Like I said earlier, I really do enjoy these videos, and thanks for watching. Give me a like, give me a subscribe, subscribe to the rest of the YouTube pack. Appreciate you watching. We'll catch you on the next one.